All right. Well, I am back. I started this stream and I stopped it because I didn't see the thumbnail that I wanted for this live stream. Oh, there it goes. Now, no, that's not the right thumbnail, but maybe I can adjust it afterwards. Let's see, invite guests. I'm going to invite some guests here. This is the very first Big Discussions 76 Sports live stream / Hangout. So, as one of my favorite content creators says, we're going to build the plane as we fly it, and we're going to see what happens. So, I'm going to invite three of my guests here, and going to email them now. So just bear with me, everyone. This is my first time doing this. This is my first time doing this, and you are witnessing history. So there's one person. Let's see. Herb, where is your... Okay. DFMC19@hotmail.com. And then I'm going to do one more here. See if I can get my boy from Buffalo. One of the Gaines twins. Gaines. Raheem Gaines. Email address. Raheem. Over here to StreamYard. Copy the clipboard. Boom. All right. So just emailed link. Let me just notify these two other guys that I've emailed them the link. So that's him. Now let me send it to my other boy here. Controversial counselor. Gonna build the plane as we fly it. Control. Counselor. All right. So while these guys, I see Herb is already there. All right. So Herb, hang on for a second. I got some talking points here, and then I'm going to invite you up. Whoever. Oh, okay. I see Raheem is in the chat. So we got a comment too from AS. Don't you think they should change it to the Washington George Floyd's. Oh boy, that's mean. Okay, so everyone, welcome to this is the initial hangout. And Raheem, I just emailed you the link, so it should be in your email box. So you just open up your email, and Herb is already backstage, so I can just pull you guys up. Well, in theory, I can pull you guys up. I've never done this before, so. But as Kevin Samuel says, Herb, we're gonna build the plane as we fly it. All right, Herb laughing. All right, so this initial hangout, you're witnessing history here. I just uploaded a video on this channel. I think it was Thursday night, trying to catch the algorithm regarding the Washington Redskins changing their name. They don't have a name right now, but on this channel, I talk sports, not just Michigan football. And Michigan football has carried the channel thus far, but I want to, as a businessman, I want to expand it outwards and keep it broad. So, at times I'll talk some NFL, some NBA, and some other things too. I'm working on a book project related to sports, and I just wanted to. This is a sports channel, even though we go hard for the Wolverines here. So I have some talking points here. So I guess you can call this an opening monologue, and I'm going to read these points off, and then I'm going to have Herb come in, and I have two other guests. I see Raheem's in backstage now as well. So again, you guys don't have to cam up. You can use an avatar if you want. It could be anything. It could be anything you want. So my talking points here. So my monologue. So welcome to the first live stream on Big Discussion 76 Sports. I don't know who's going to watch this first one. It's my first time using StreamYards. So I'm expecting 3 guests, all of which are Western New Yorkers like myself, and all of which have opinions on things. So in terms of the Redskins, if you want to see the video I shot, you can go to my channel and look at that. It's the last video I uploaded, and I shot that video in a humorous way, even though this is a very, very serious discussion, one which people are arguably willing to fight over. So, the Redskins name change. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. So, unless there's a reason to change things, I tend to like to keep them as is. As a Buffalo native, as a Western New York native, I do have some history with the Washington Redskins, vicariously through my hometown Buffalo Bills. As many of you know, or for those of you who don't know, the Redskins laid the smackdown on my Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 26 up in Minneapolis. Arguably, the Super Bowl 25 against the New York Giants was our best chance to win. But, the Redskins laid the smackdown on us at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. They had a loaded team with Mark Rippon and Ernest Biner and the Posse and the Hogs, and that was arguably their last. That was the last of Joe Gibbs' 3 Super Bowls, and that was their last Super Bowl. And since then, the franchise has basically gone into the toilet for numerous reasons. But again, I'm a traditionalist. I say, why change it if it's not broken? Don't fix it. Let's see. So it's a historic franchise. That the Redskins, that franchise, that name, I did some research on it. It actually goes back to the 1930s, and they've won numerous Super Bowls. I discussed the 1992 Super Bowl, the one before that, which a lot of us as African Americans, the one which we remember is the one where Doug Williams won against the Denver Broncos. And I'm going to talk about this toward the end of these talking points, but that's actually, the Redskins was actually a brand. It was a brand. It was an image with identifiable colors and a fight song. And if you go back and watch the replay of that Super Bowl where they blew out John Elway's Denver Broncos, one of the things that you remember from that replay is the Redskins fight song. So it was a brand. It was an image and colors, and people of all ethnicities actually gathered and put on those colors. There are numerous pictures of some black fans putting on the headdress, putting on the face paint, and all kinds of things. So that was a distinct brand that has gone away. So it's going to be interesting to see if the fans will still follow it as strongly once they decide on a new name. There's an article on the final video, on the final upload. I will post it below. Actually, and I heard this from Anthony Brian Logan, that it was actually a Native American who came up with the actual logo. Before the logo, which we all know with the Native American on it, it was an R. It was an R with a circle around it. But there was an article actually stating that an actual Native American came up with that image, the one that everyone's been disputing. Why did Daniel Snyder and his team finally cave in? I would say that it was due to political and social pressure. There's a lot going on now in the country, and we're kind of in this era of social justice where you can't have a franchise called the Redskins with a Native American chief on it. Now, these sports teams with Native Americans have been under attack for a number of years now. I'm thinking about the University of Illinois Fighting Illini. Florida State might be up next. But the Cleveland Indians, I think, have escaped so far. I think the Atlanta Braves have escaped so far. But these things are under attack, and there's just, in this atmosphere with George Floyd being murdered and just this general social push for social justice, I think that Dan Snyder caved. And I think the NFL in general, and I mentioned this in my video, I think the NFL, I think they don't want any more distractions this year if and when they start playing, because last year you had all the owners like Jerry Jones kneeling with the players, and you have this constant talk of Colin Kaepernick coming back into the league, and the fact that they should be giving him a job. So I think the NFL, the owners, Roger Goodell, I just think that they don't want any more distractions. I think they just want to play football, and they want their money-making machine to keep going. Almost done, guys. I've already talked about that this is a brand. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the franchise once they find a new name and a new likeness. People have been identifying with that for the last 50 to 60 years. And again, this topic cuts across sports, society, and culture. Some, I'll count myself among them, some of us have become concerned that the United States has become too soft and too woke. And after I shot my video on the Redskins collectibles, I thought to myself, and I wondered if the pendulum might swing back the other way one day, because we've seen that happen. And we've also seen, pro teams in terms of their names go away, and we've seen the names come back. I'm thinking right now about the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets turned into the Charlotte Bobcats. And then you have the New Orleans Hornets. And then I don't know if it was Michael Jordan, but someone decided, okay, we need to bring the Hornets back. And the same thing with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns were transformed into the Baltimore Ravens. And then they brought the Cleveland Browns back to Cleveland. So, even that might infuriate some people, the thought that the Redskins might one day come back. That's just speculation. That's my opening monologue. So I'm going to bring Herb and Raheem up right now. Oh, it looks like the controversial counselor has joined us as well. So let me see if I could bring all three of you up so we can have this initial panel discussion. So it says add to stream. Herb, you're coming up now. Boom, there's Herb. Okay. Herb, say something.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you coming. Let me bring up Raheem here. All right. Raheem's up. Raheem, say something.
What's up, fellas? Happy
Raheem?
to be on with all of you, and I'm excited to discuss these topics with all of you.
All right, so we're gonna bring David up now. All you guys are cammed up, so I'll probably cam up too.
going on,
Controversial
fellas?
counselor, what's going on?
What's up, Anwar? What's up, Raheem? Herb?
Hey, what's happening?
What's going on, fellas?
All right, let me.
Good.
All right, all you guys are cammed up, so stop mic, cam. You know what, Herb, go ahead. I might stick with my avatar here. Herb, go ahead. What say you on this matter?
It's interesting to see how this is unfolded. But make no mistake, Dan Snyder didn't want to change the name. It was the $650 million that he stood to lose in financial backing that compelled him to change the name. So let's make that clear. Let's get that out there to the masses so they understand that it was a money issue that made him change the name. Now, in terms of this nickname coming back, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
You mentioned Florida State. The one team that hasn't really been mentioned much is the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, personally speaking, I don't necessarily know if Chiefs is offensive, but I'm not the person to ask. I have to defer to this to my Native American friends, and I know quite a few, and most of them are locked up with the fact that anything that is used to paint Native Americans in a derogatory sense should be changed. Now, also, that goes for South Dakota University. Their name is the Fighting Sioux, so I think that all of those will be looked at. Now, the only one that might escape some type of blowback is the Braves, because Braves is actually a term used for young men. In Native American culture, Braves were considered young warriors. So Braves is not necessarily a slander, but I think, and I was listening to a podcast, I believe it was Skip and Shannon, they were talking about the tomahawk chop has to go. And like I said, being that I'm a Native American black male, that's not my position to say. I have to defer that to them. It reminds me of a song MC Serge did years ago when he spoke. The song title was "Here It Comes," and he spoke about, how would we feel if they had a team called the Atlanta Slaves. So it bears some pondering as to why this has taken as long as it has. And honestly, I thought I would die before this day actually comes. So as BGS often talks about the Black Swans, we are in the middle of history that actually is palpable. So this is something that really is something we can actually sit down and say, I lived through this, sort of like our parents can say they've actually lived through the civil rights and they'll be on the other end, or will be on the other end as they were, to talk about how things were pre and post. Now, in terms of people galvanizing themselves to the name change, I don't think that's going to be an issue, because this is not the first team that actually, as you pointed out, Dr. Anwar, that has gone through a name change. If you go back and you look at the New York Giants, their original name were the Titans. I don't know in terms of the colors, I can't recall. But I think a lot of that is going to carry on the spirit and everything else into the point you made about the song that was held to the Redskins, fight for ODC. I remember the song as a Dallas fan growing up, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. It reminds me of the Michigan Fight song. So I was just like, wow, they actually had a song that they sing at their home games. I thought that was crazy. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Herb, before I pass it to Raheem, why would you say that the name will never come back?
Because of it's the derogatory nature. When you look at the way that this continent and point south were settled, Redskin wasn't a term of endearment. Redskin was used to, in essence, Redskin is the black form of nigger.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody, and I'm a mild-mannered person, but if you call me a nigger and you're using it to defame me, you might catch some blowback. And I'm not talking about verbal blowback. And I'm the last person that's going to put my hands on you. But if you catch me in the right manner, in the right way, you might catch some hell.
Okay. See, I didn't know that it was that much of a racial slur for the Native Americans. Okay. Raheem Gaines, what say you?
Well, I'll just say this about the Redskins. I mean, we grew up with the Redskins being one of the bedrock franchises of the league. I mean, they were a solid team. They've won what, 3 Super Bowls, and by the way, they have a very large black fan base. That is something to keep in mind. Myself, I never would have named a team the Redskins, but the team was founded when in the early 1930s. So obviously times certainly change. In this sort of woke culture, we're kind of applying 21st century logic and or emotion to a 20th century situation. And like you said, I mean, the pendulum may end up swinging the other way, because at some point, I think people are going to get a little bit tired of the infusion of so much, politics and agendas into, our sporting culture. The Redskins logo, I'll be honest, I thought it's one of the best looking logos in the NFL. I know the name, and again, I never would have named a team the Redskins, but that logo was just, it was a beautiful logo to me. I've always loved the colors. The Redskins have had some sharp uniforms over the years, nice color scheme. And, my brother made a very good point. If the Redskins were a better team over the time that Daniel Snyder's on the team, maybe some of this pushback wouldn't be as great. But since he is such an unlikable character, and the Redskins have been relatively irrelevant for about 20 years now, he's definitely a vulnerable person at this stage of the game. I want to say that the new team name is going to be the Red Wolves. I think I've heard some discussion about that. I don't know if it's official yet, but I'm hearing behind the great, that it's going to be the Red Wolves. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I'm a traditionalist just like you. There's just something about, the team named Washington Redskins. And again, I know, racial overtones there, but I'm a traditionalist, and crazy as it sounds, I'm going to miss the name.
Yeah. Controversial counselor, what say you?
To be honest, I really hadn't been following it. I read up a little bit about it today, and they were talking about some of the names, the Red Wolves. They mentioned something about the Hogs, the Warriors, Senators. So they came up with a bunch of different names, but I think, does this open up a can of worms for other areas when you start thinking about schools and the different names that, their mascot names and different things like that? Well, they start looking at that, and then schools have to change their names and stuff. So I just think, I understand the racist part of it, Redskins, but it seemed to me we got bigger issues than football. Just to me, I mean, seemed like we got bigger fish to fry than that. And I'm not trying to sound insensitive to Native Americans, but I just think this is going to go on and on and on, and they're going to just find out, and it's going to kind of filter down into other areas of life.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, when I put my video together on this, I did, for the thumbnail, I did intentionally look for African American images of fans wearing the paraphernalia, and it turns out that there are quite a few. I found quite a few. The most famous being Chief Z. There's an elder black man here who, just doing the research, he was the unofficial mascot for the Redskins, and he's a bit of a celebrity himself. So I just think we need to have all voices, in this discussion. And I think that there are quite a few people, minorities included, who were not offended by the name and the imagery.
To that point, I have come across some who aren't offended, and part of the reason that they give is they say that the NFL being the prominent sports league that it is, at least in America, starting about sort of North America, we need soccer just sports. What they say is to keep the atrocities.
Hey, Herb, you're coming in just a little bit faint.
Better now?
Yeah, that's better.
When you look at the atrocities that have been levied against Native Americans just throughout North America, it's one of the ways that they actually have said that this keeps that history in the forefront, so that history can't be whitewashed and just kind of pushed away like slavery. I mean, you ask the average person about slavery, they can't tell you a great deal about it. They can't even tell you about the transatlantic slave route, the ports of places where they were dropped off. Most don't even know that less than half a million slaves were actually dropped off on the shores of the 13 colonies. That the vast majority were sent to the Caribbean and South America. So, it goes without saying that those people who have, and like I said, I'll reiterate, it's not a huge number, but they said this allows them to tell their history, and not from the white man's perspective, but from a Native American perspective. Because if you think about it, Custer's last name, they call it a massacre. Well, how is it a massacre when you're only defending yourself and your people against what is obvious aggression? So I think people need to understand that, like you said, all voices need to be at the table, but I think the weighted voices need to be those who take offense to this.
Okay. Raheem, you want to say anything?
Yes, I just want to. I'll add on to David's point. Just what is the end game? And this seems more like a journey as opposed to a destination. Obviously, there are other teams that we've mentioned. We mentioned the Braves. Mentioned the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians have steered away recently from their Chief Wahoo logo. They've gone to more of a script Indians name than a block C. So I'm not sure what the future will be in terms of any logo for for the Indians, let's say. But at some point, when does it end? Because at some point, people are going to be offended about something else. If it's not going to be names for Native Americans, is it going to be names about animals? Are we going to be offended about names of animals? So it's a controversial topic for sure. I wouldn't name any team after a tribe. That wouldn't have been me. But when does it end? I think we've got a lot of non-football fans making football decisions, and I think that is, in a way, kind of watering down the NFL as we know it. We're all Gen Xers, I would say, mid 40s. Let's say maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, but in that Gen X range. And football is a completely different game than it was 20 years ago. It's different. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it obviously in basketball. The game's not as physical as it used to be. Well, the same can be said for football as well. And there's always a downside to to doing the right thing in some cases. So I think that's something we just got to consider. It's always a good and a bad in everything that's done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think, David, were you going to say something?
No, I just was trying to go back, like what Raheem was saying. Is with sports, it seemed like it's just too many politics being brought into sports. It's not the same how it used to be. When it was time for football or even basketball, it was time to get dirty, be competitive, and go out there and the ultimate goal was to produce a champion. But now there's too much stuff going on that most of the stuff they're reporting on is non-related to the actual game. It's little and again, I don't want my language to sound like I'm minimizing it, but it's just coming off the top of my head. It's just like little things that really don't even get you excited about the season, because you're hearing this all these different reports and stuff that's non-related. I want you want to hear like what team is looking good, star players, what they've been up to, the projections and stuff like that. Now it seems like they're just reporting on everything that's non-related to the actual physical part of the game.
Well, you raise an excellent point in that, and it wasn't popular to say, and it got a lot of blowback, but when the whole cap thing, I hate to bring up America's favorite quarterback, but when the whole cap thing was going on, I think that there were some people who just wanted to focus on the game, wanted to be distracted, wanted to concentrate on the completion percentages and the third down conversions and the successful trips to the red zone. And so, yeah, I think we're in an era now where there's just there are so many other things that are coming into the game that we're almost not focusing on the games anymore, or we're not focusing on them as much. And I think that a lot of this has to be a lot of this decision making, singing the Negro spiritual before the first games. I think the owners have to feel like, what, we just want to get back to playing football. We don't want to have to be out. It's not that they don't want to show sympathy for the kneeling, but there were aspects of that last year. Seeing Jerry Jones out on the field kneeling, some of that did look kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I think it's bizarre for Jerry Jones to be out there on the field anyway. He needs to go somewhere in the suite or something. He's it's too much micromanaging.
He's a showman. He's always been a showman. And he loves the attention. He loves the attention.
True.
And to your point, Dave, I think a lot of what we have now is less about the actual sport and more about the business and the entertainment aspect. We see that, with all these sports. And like you were saying, Dr. Anwar, sports are nowhere near as physical as they were 20 years ago. And you can pick a sport. I'm a hockey fan, so I had the privilege this years actually seeing a lot of Sabres games. And there is next to no hitting in hockey, no forechecking, no huge checks. Fighting is all but gone. You don't see fights anymore. Basketball, post play, gone. It's like you said. When does this stop? When do we actually get back to just playing sports for the sake of playing sports? For me, sports was the way that you actually built yourself up as a young boy. There was if you were on the field and it was model or boy this boy, nobody in the stands, your parents, nobody could say nothing. If you were dominating that person across from you, you were that person. And you got that respect. Nowadays, it seems like that's been eroded, and I don't know if that's necessarily accredited to the way both ways and mores are moving, but it really does our society a disadvantage when you start to look at what might be required of men coming in terms of just being able to physically stand up and be a man, to do work as a man.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, again, and all of this is assuming, that we will have a season, that will go, through to the end, where, as we're living in some pretty uncertain times right now. But yeah, assuming that we have a full NFL season, it's definitely changed from what it used to be. We've got something else now. And so,
and to kind of go back to that point what Herb said about being a young boy and just getting out there playing and with no parents and all that, even that has watered down the game, because now, you have parents that's running up to the coaches. Oh, my kid didn't get in the game. And I know this kind of off topic, but I think overall, just the fabric of the sport has changed. So now coaches can't coach the way they want to coach because they got to worry about getting this kid in. And I coach youth sports, and that's the worst when you got to try to manage time to get everybody in, and then you end up saying, okay, we don't play to win, we play to have fun. And especially when the kids start getting a certain age, they're like, what? Like they're trying to win, but if you put a certain kids in at the same time, you just gonna that blows your chances of winning. So it's the games isn't the same how it used to be in
Yeah.
any sports.
Very true. That's so true. That's so true. And with the recent shutdown of businesses, economy, the Last Dance documentary was a hot topic. For many of us, it gave us an opportunity to look at old school sports, old school basketball, just how MJ in particular came up, how he rose up, and just the urgency that he had to win, the desire, the hunger, the passion, and it's a different style today. Herb talked about the business side of it. It's become more of a branding opportunity for professional sports. I don't think these kids love the game, crave it like those of the past. And I don't want to sound like old man, get off my lawn, but I mean the truth is the truth. And times change, certainly. So we have to accept that. But the truth just has to be told.
Oh
Okay.
man, it's funny you made the comment about get up on law because we always look for a patch of grass to play on. We used to think about it. If there was two kids, these kids knew the rules forwards, backwards, inside out, to where you could actually play a game of baseball. I know I would do that with some of my brothers or some of the kids in the neighborhood, and I'm thinking all the games that we used to play that these kids have no idea of. Tin the cans, hot box, crazy tackle, haystack. I mean, these games are few and far between. You mention some of these games of these kids, they'd be like, "What the hell is that? Hot box, tin the cans? Get that out of here, man! Take your old behind somewhere else." And it's unfortunate that the fabric of sports, it literally is being ripped apart in front of our eyes and being transformed into something that we know nothing about. It's like it's almost impossible for us to associate with it. Like as big an NBA fan I am, I don't watch the NBA unless I'm going to a game in Toronto to watch my Sixers play until the playoffs are on, because it's just run and gun. It almost seems like there's no strategy, no post play. And for me, no post play is just like, it's almost like watching Loyola Marymount play. They run up and down the court, just shoot threes. Big men shooting threes. I'm just like, is this it? So now when you try to, that's all.
Raheem, mute yourself momentarily.
I can see y'all, but I don't know if y'all can hear me.
I can hear you. I was just saying, okay, there was some background noise. Herb, go ahead.
No, and that's what I was saying. It's to the point now where you can't teach these kids the fundamentals of a game. So while these kids are busy trying to dribble like Steph, shoot like Steph, they don't know the fundamentals. They don't know how to set up a half court trap. They don't even know what a half court trap is. You try and teach some of these kids the 3-man lead, and they walking around lost. And no matter how much you try and drill it into them, they can't learn. You try and teach them how to do a left-hand layup, they can't do that. You trying to teach them about pick and roll, pick and pop, anything that has to do with basic fundamentals of the game, it's almost impossible because they watch this and that's what they want to do. And it's just like, that's not basketball. That's just shooting. That's an element of basketball. It's not the entire game.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think for me, you
go
were
ahead.
I said, I think for me, when I said I coach youth sports, I can remember this one particular situation. It was a tight game, and like I said, you have to manage the time. And I had to put this Caucasian kid, and he probably was the worst player on the team. And he got in, didn't really move on defense, threw him the ball, he couldn't catch it. And then I pulled him back out, and then he like, Coach David, I just got in. And I said to him, you didn't do anything when you were in there. And then I said to him, it doesn't matter how much time you play, it's what you do when you get in there that keeps you out there. Then I said, do you want to win? And then he kind of looked at me and said, with a puzzled look, then he said, "Are you saying I'm going to be the reason why we're going to lose?" So then I had to change my whole mindset up and say, now I got to answer the political way because I know he's going to go back and tell his parents, and
And you got to do that nonsense.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's being a coach in today's sports climate is almost unenviable. It reminds me of the incident that Marshawn Lynch had with the mother of the child, and when he asked,
Oh, that was funny.
when he asked for a man, it was because a man is more apt to understand what Marshawn was talking about. And a lot of people, when they saw that clip, they took it as a slight against females, and it was just like females aren't born into that competition. So if you're not born into that competition and you only jump in halfway, you tend to look at things from a jaded perspective. And it reminds me of an AAU team I had some years ago. Now these were females. They were age range from 11 or 12 up to like 15. Never played sports a day in their life. Now we are practicing at the local park in the middle of summer. In the middle of summer, the heat here can get oppressive along with the humidity. So we're talking, straight days of 90 to 95 plus. These girls aren't accustomed to physical exertion of that level. So when I called practice one day, one of the mothers of the daughter called, and she was infuriated and wanted to know why we canceled practice. I said, because it's too hot. Her first response was, you didn't cancel it for the boys. So why are you picking on the girls? I said, it's not about that. I said, this is the thing. I said, when you send your daughter to us, you are making her responsible for her well-being. So if something happens where she dies, you're going to want to know why. Heat stroke, overexertion, and exhaustion are all things that come with playing sports in heat, particularly when you're not hydrated. So if we're pushing you to exert yourself and you're saying you're tired, are you tired because you're out of shape, or are you tired because you're tired? Everybody that's played sports know that there comes a point in time where you have to push through a level of fatigue to get a goal, because that's how you increase your fitness. Now, these girls also didn't want to drink water, and I would bring waters out there by the gallon, and we would take a break every 15, 20 minutes, drink water. Well, I don't want to. That poses another problem. So you have a lot of people that are putting their input in sports, like David said, and they don't know jack about sports.
Okay. All right. So I think we'll wrap up with it looks like we've lost Raheem for good. How do you guys think with Tom Brady going down to Tampa? Do you think the Bills have a good chance of winning the AFC East this year?
If they don't, I'll be thoroughly surprised. I actually thought they were in a great position to win last year, and then New England does what New England's been doing typically for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, they'll be in there. I mean, they got a strong defense. Hopefully, what's his name, Josh Allen, if he can manage the game and don't make many turnovers. I know the second half of the season he did much better. They'll be there, but again, New England, Cam got something to prove, and Belichick, they're always going to put their players in a good position to win on Josh McDaniels. So they're still going to be a force.
Okay. Well, David, you know that I assume Baltimore is going to be competitive for years to come since they have Lamar in there. Dave's laughing. Doesn't he just have to learn how to play the position? I mean,
see, I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm actually a Steelers fan. So I get into it with these people down here all the time. And I'm still not sold on Lamar until he learns how to throw it to his wide receivers. And I'm sure some of these defensive coordinators been sitting around all this time finding ways, schemes to say, oh, we're going to stop all that. So I don't know if he's going to have that type of year again. I mean, somebody like Patrick Mahomes, he's at a different level of a quarterback. But Lamar, if he don't make those passes to receivers, he's not going. Baltimore is not going to do as well as they did last year.
Yeah. Well, Mahomes is a totally different player. He came in, with that cannon for an arm, and he came in being able to make all those throws. I think Lamar's big thing coming in was his athletic ability, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like you said, with those complex defenses, they'll find a way to stop him. Man, I mean, he's still young, but we know that eventually Mike Vick had to make throws at his time once his wheels started to go. So, I think they'll be having a hit on Lamar. They'll be ready to put some wood on him every time he runs.
Yeah, he actually has the potential to be a slightly better version of Randall Cunningham. Now, the difference was Randall had a cannon for an arm. Randall could throw the ball 50, 60 yards in the air and drop it on a dime. Like you said, he has to learn how to throw it to receivers. Once he does that, it opens up the field so where he can actually work underneath. A lot of his issues are going to be staying healthy. As running quarterbacks tend to do, they get hit a lot. And it doesn't take too much wood, like Dave said, it doesn't take too much wood to get to your backside before you realize, okay, you know what? Them cats hit. And they hit with some bad intentions. So I need to stay behind these boys up here and play in the pocket until I absolutely have to run. Honestly, he needs to play more like Dak Prescott in terms of running. Dak doesn't run because he has to. He runs when the opportunity presents itself. Yeah. And I think if he does that, he'll be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, NFL defenses, they're athletic in their own right.
Right.
And the defensive coordinators are so smart, they will ultimately adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar's he's kind of wiry. He's not a thick guy like Cam Newton is. And even Cam Newton got banged up after a while.
Right.
So yeah, Michael Vick, Cam, and the defense is eventually adjusted to what Colin Kaepernick was doing.
Right.
So it falls on the quarterback to ultimately learn the position and learn how to make those throws and put in the extra work.
Yep.
And Lamar, he's elusive. He's one of those, you could tell he probably was untouchable and crazy tackle and stuff like that. He has all the moves, the jukes, as people used to say. So that's his greatest thing. Like in open field, you can just forget about it.
Yeah. But there's a mental standpoint as well, because in that playoff loss to Houston, I believe, once Tennessee. He got down, he was on the sidelines sulking. And it takes a certain amount of grit as the leader of the offense to stay in the game once your team falls down or falls back. And he has to learn how to, keep fighting, when his team falls back like that.
Yeah, and I don't think their team's designed to come back from that, because you knew every time the Titans was going to get the ball, they was just going to give it to Derrick Henry, and he was just going to kill the clock. So they did what they had to do to keep Lamar off the field, even though he threw 50, 60 passes that game, but that's not his game to throw that much.
Yeah. Take somebody, it's like you said, Dr. Anwar, take somebody out of the comfort zone, especially when you're playing ahead. The adage is it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. And that's what he was facing, It's like, okay, wait a minute, they're shooting at me now. I have to figure this out. So, what the trademark of a mentally astute player is learning how to play when conditions and things are not in your favor. And if he can do that, that will be another feather in his cap that he can say, okay, fellas, we down 14. We've been here before, but this time we're going to get it done. It reminds me of what they talk about in the Super Bowl with Joe Montana and the Cincinnati Bengals. And he came in the huddle and he looked up in the stands and he pointed to one of his players and said, hey, look, there's John Candy. Now, wait a minute. You're in the fourth quarter of arguably the biggest game of your life, and you sit there and you say, there's John Candy. That's why they call him Joe Cool. You know, to be able to sit there and just say, hey, okay, you know what? That's that dude, but we're gonna get this done. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get it done. That type of leadership permeates through the team, and it calms everybody down. So everybody is not nervous. They're not jittery. They talk about the butterflies when when you know kickoff happens, and I can't ever say I've actually ever experienced at least not on that level. I mean, I have in my own, you know, when I ran track and we got to the NFLs, and there was somebody in the blocks who had beaten me previously that year. So I was like, okay, you know, I got to get ahead of this dude. And if you don't calm your nerves, you know, you can fall starting. And that was it. So it takes a lot to get yourself mentally prepared to play at those levels, you know, and to be able to succeed.
Okay. Yep. Well, all right, gentlemen. I think this will conclude this first ever live hangout on Big Discussion 76 Sports. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. And this won't be the last one. So
You know how to reach me. I'm always willing.
It's always welcome.
All right.
All right.
So I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you on a Monday night over in your space.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
All right. Okay. No problem. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming, guys.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
See y'all.
All right. Hey, and thanks to anyone who's watched this. I always end with your attitude determines your altitude. Look out for more lives and hangouts, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.